This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our Mja Podcast, this series, Missing Persons, Episode 23, Part 1, 1960's Missing Persons. The NCIC reports that over 600,000 people go missing each year. There are many who are found quickly, alive and well, but several thousands of them remain missing. We are going back over 60 years to profile some missing person cases from the 1960s. Some cases won't have a lot of info about the case, but these types of cases needs to be profiled and never forgotten. It's a family's worst nightmare is when a loved one goes missing and vanished without a trace. Please join us as we step back into time. Good evening. My name is Mark and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. Case 1. It was on December 25th, 1966, Christmas Day, is when 18-year-old Michael August Cannon, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Honolulu, Hawaii. Case 2. It was on July 26, 1968, is when 26-year-old Wanda Gale Lowe, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Tahoe City, California. Case 3. It was on May 28, 1969, is when 9-year-old James Richard Howell, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sterling, Illinois. Case 4. It was on December 18, 1969, is when 22-year-old Carmen Marie Hallock, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Case 5. It was on January 12, 1961, is when 45-year-old Thomas Miles Daugherty, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sioux City, Iowa. Case 6. It was on October 24, 1961, is when 30-year-old Joan Carolyn Risch, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Lincoln, Massachusetts. Case 7. It was on December 10, 1967, is when 37-year-old John Eric Lake, a white male, disappeared without a trace from New York City, New York. Case 8. It was on June 14, 1969, is when 20-year-old Barbara Jean Picotti, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Hibbing, Minnesota. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line. Olivia and I will profile missing person cases from the 1960s. Be back in a moment. Welcome to our Mja Podcast, this series, Missing Persons, Episode 23, Part 1, 1960s Missing Persons. We have Olivia on the line. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm just fine. And are you ready to dig in these 1960 missing person cases?
Yes.
Welcome to the state of Hawaii. The Doe Network has one male listed as being missing from the 1960s in the state of Hawaii. Case 1. Welcome to Honolulu, Hawaii. Missing male. It was on December 25th, 1966, Christmas Day, is when 18-year-old Michael August Cannon, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Honolulu, Hawaii. In the early morning hours of Christmas Day, the 18-year-old Cannon left a note for his mom. The note stated he was going to take a hike to the Tantalus Forest Reserve to visit the bamboo forest on Tantalus. The 18-year-old Cannon would be home late in the afternoon to join his family for Christmas dinner. Cannon left his home with his hiking gear and drove his 1966 Chevrolet. When the 18-year-old Michael August Cannon didn't return home by the evening hours, his mother called police. It was on December 26, 1966, is when Cannon's vehicle was found on top of Tantalus Lookout Point, but there was no sign of the 18-year-old Cannon. When Cannon's disappearance hit the news, two separate hikers came forward saying that they had seen a young man matching Cannon's description on Christmas Day. One hiker said he saw the young man around noon climbing over a fence in the area of the Hawaiian Telephone Company's Maintenance Access Road on Tantalus. The other hiker saw the young man near the end of the trail in the area of the bamboo forest on Tantalus Trail Number 2 at about 5 p.m. The young man and the hiker had a brief discussion about the view overlooking Pele Ridge Highway before the hiker walked away. The search for Michael was the largest and most expensive search and rescue in Hawaii at the time. Just a side note, in November 1960, Michael Cannon's mother inherited $5.5 million from the death of her father, who was a co-founder of Victor Chemical Works. Stay with me, but it's possible that the disappearance of 18-year-old Cannon was a kidnapping that went wrong, resulting in his death. Just think about it for a minute. $5.5 million was a lot of money for the 1960s. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Honolulu Police Department, Detective Michael Garcia at 808-529-3111.
Welcome to the state of California. The Doe Network has 23 females listed as being missing from the state of California in the 1960s. Case 2. Welcome to Tahoe City, California. Missing female. It was on July 26, 1968, when 26-year-old Wanda Gail Lowe, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Tahoe City, California. 26-year-old Lowe had been working as a waitress at East Sunnyside Restaurant and Lodge in North Lake Tahoe, California for about 6 weeks. When the 26-year-old Lowe suddenly stopped showing up for work and disappeared without collecting her last paycheck or any of her mail. Lowe's vehicle, a 1969 green Buick with Washington plates, was found in the parking lot of the restaurant. Hold on. The 26-year-old Lowe's mother reported her missing in the first week of August. She has never been heard from again. At the time of her disappearance, 26-year-old Lowe was staying at a campsite in the Blackwood Canyon area near Homewood, California. At the time of Lowe's disappearance, she was dating a local man, Dennis Finn. There are witness accounts that Lowe and Finn had a stormy relationship and had many fights. Around the time the 26-year-old Lowe went missing, her campsite was dismantled and her property stolen. A Volkswagen Bug had been seen in the area, but it's unclear whether the vehicle had any connection to the disappearance of Lowe. Dennis Finn, while extremely intoxicated, confessed to a cousin that he had murdered 26-year-old Wanda Gale Lowe. When that tip came in, law enforcement gained other info that the 26-year-old Lowe is a victim of homicide. Police believe Lowe's remains may be in the Carpenter Valley area near Truckee, California. But Dennis Finn died in 1982 without ever being charged in the disappearance of 26-year-old Wanda Gale Lowe. On July 26, 1968, Wanda Gale Lowe, a 26-year-old white female, was last seen leaving the Sunnyside Restaurant and Lodge in North Lake Tahoe, California, after her shift. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Placer County Sheriff's Office, Detective Kurt Leatherman, at 530-889-7800.
Welcome to the state of Illinois. The Doe Network has 3 males listed as being missing from the state of Illinois in the 1960s. Case 3. Welcome to Sterling, Illinois. Missing male. It was on May 28, 1969 is when 9-year-old James Richard Howell, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sterling, Illinois. On that day, the 9-year-old Hal and his sister were playing in the front yard of their home when Hal decided to build a cage for his birds with the wood he had gathered earlier that day. Hal's sister went into the house to get some nails and a hammer. When she returned about a minute later, the boards her 9-year-old brother had to build the cage were scattered along the street in front of the residence, and 9-year-old James Hal was gone. The mother and stepfather of 9-year-old Hal spent the night searching for Hal, finding nothing. On May 28, 1969, at around 10:35 p.m., 9-year-old James Hal's neighbor called the police to report James Hal missing. An ensuing search included a 400-person air and ground search party that worked its way through the area west of town where Hal was last seen by his stepfather. There was a search of Elkhorn Creek and the Rock River. Divers searched gravel pits and water areas with no positive results. Newspaper reports from the days and months and a year after 9-year-old Hal's disappearance revealed several supposed sightings of him on that day. A newspaper account states that 9-year-old Hal's stepfather saw him across the alley with another boy from the neighborhood looking for wood. Another neighborhood boy seen Hal walking across a field with a bird underneath his arm like he was trying to keep the bird warm or still. On May 28, 1969 is when 9-year-old James Hal went missing from Sterling, Illinois. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Whiteside County Sheriff's Office, Detective Pat Carney at 815-722-4044.
Welcome to the state of Florida. The Doe Network has 8 females listed as being missing from the state of Florida in the 1960s. Case 4. Welcome to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Missing female. Welcome to Serial Killer Avenue. It was on December 18, 1969, when 22-year-old Carmen Marie Halleck, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. On that day, the 22-year-old Halleck was last seen by her sister-in-law in the hometown of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Alex told her sister-in-law that she had an appointment with a male teacher from the local junior college that evening. The 22-year-old Alex said that the unidentified teacher also did undercover work and that the meeting revolved around a possible employment opportunity for her. Halleck's sister-in-law became concerned when she was unable to contact Halleck by Christmas of 1969. She checked the 22-year-old Halleck's apartment shortly thereafter and discovered that Halleck's car keys and driver's license and vehicle registration were missing. Sister-in-law could not locate the high heels or the black dress Halleck intended to wear to her meeting with the unidentified teacher in her apartment. Halleck's sister-in-law filed a missing persons report for the 22-year-old Halleck. Halleck's car was found abandoned in a nearby parking lot a few days later. But there was no trace of the 22-year-old Halleck until April 1973. 2 gold teeth and a shamrock pin discovered in the possession of Gerard John Schaefer, the former Florida law enforcement officer, were identified as belonging to the 22-year-old Halleck. Welcome to Serial Killer Avenue. Schaefer was eventually convicted of the murders of 2 young women in the Florida area in the 1970s and sentenced to 2 life prison sentences. The ex-Florida law enforcement officer Schaefer is believed to be responsible for attacks and murders and the disappearances of many other young women in the 1960s and 1970s. Schaefer was never charged in connection with the disappearance of Carmen Marie Halleck from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you have any info concerning this case, please call Fort Lauderdale Police Department, Detective Jennifer St. Jean at 954-761-5547.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia and I will profile more missing person cases from the 1960s. Be back in a moment. Welcome back to our Mja Podcast, this series, Missing Persons, Episode 23, Part 1, 1960s Missing Persons. Welcome to the state of Iowa. The Doe Network has 1 male listed as being missing from the state of Iowa in the 1960s. Case 5. Welcome to Sioux City, Iowa. Missing male. It was on January 12, 1961 is when 45-year-old Thomas Miles Daugherty, a white male, went missing and vanished without a trace from Sioux City, Iowa. It was on that cold morning day is when the 45-year-old Daugherty spoke to his friends as they ate breakfast at the Metropolitan Cafe. After breakfast, the 45-year-old Daugherty walked out the door and got into his 1954 dark green Tudor Ford with Iowa plates and drove away. That was the last time that the 45-year-old Daugherty was seen or heard from again. Daugherty's vehicle was especially equipped for him to drive, for he had both hands during World War II invading Normandy, France, blown off. The 45-year-old Daugherty was fitted with prosthetic devices, often called hooks. After police questioned people who were at the cafe that day, the info provided police with a person of interest that happened to be in the cafe the day that Daugherty went missing. There are no records of why this man became a person of interest or any history between this man and the 45-year-old Daugherty. This man was questioned and took a lie detector test, which he passed, and this man also provided an alibi for when he left the cafe. The 45-year-old Thomas Miles Daugherty had a history of carrying large sums of cash on him. Daugherty's family thinks he may have been robbed and taken advantage of the 45-year-old Daugherty's condition. Police and volunteers conducted aerial searches, and the river was trolled from Virginia Street to the Floyd Channel. Daugherty and no evidence linked to him has ever been found during these searches. Foul play is suspected considering the disappearance of 45-year-old Thomas Miles Daugherty from Sioux City, Iowa. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Sioux City Police Department at 712-279-6960.
Welcome to the state of Massachusetts. The Doe Network has 2 females listed as being missing from the state of Massachusetts in the 1960s. Case 6. Welcome to Lincoln, Massachusetts. Missing female. It was on October 24th, 1961, when 30-year-old Joan Carolyn Risch, a white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Lincoln, Massachusetts. On that day, the 30-year-old Risch was last seen by neighbors. Risch's 4-year-old I lost my place. Daughter was playing at a neighbor's house, and her 2-year-old son was napping in his crib. It just so happened on this day, her husband was away on a business trip in New York. Risch's daughter left the neighbor's house at 4 p.m., but the 4-year-old girl returned a half hour later, stating that her mother was gone and that the kitchen was covered with red paint. The neighbors called the police. Police arrived. The evidence they found. The telephone was ripped from the wall and tossed in a nearby wastebasket. A chair had been overturned. The phone book lay open to emergency numbers. Police lifted a bloody left thumbprint next to the telephone mount. The red paint turned out to be Joan Risch's blood. Investigators disclosed that someone had made the effort to clean up the blood with paper towels and rags. Police also determined that the amount of blood found probably came from a superficial wound. It appeared that the 30-year-old Risch had not been shot or stabbed, but hemorrhaging or a blow to the head could not be ruled out. Trail of blood led from the kitchen to the driveway, but ending quickly. Droplets of blood were found on the side of Risch's back car. However, investigators found no footprints on the bloody kitchen floor. As for the bloody thumbprint, it was checked against 5,000 prints, and they didn't get a match. No weapon was ever found. Witnesses. Neighbors said they saw a bluish-gray sedan in the driveway about an hour before Risch disappeared. The police determined it was probably an unmarked cruiser. The question should be why was there an unmarked police car parked in 30-year-old Risch's driveway? Another neighbor said she had seen Risch outside the house. Shooting. Bear with me. Outside the house that afternoon, running and looking dazed. She had assumed the 30-year-old Risch was chasing one of the children. A few motorists said they had spotted a bloody woman looking dazed near the site where Route 128 was being built. How cold-hearted it was that no one had stopped to help her. An air and ground search was conducted of the surrounding wooded area and reservoirs and buildings, but no clues were found concerning the disappearance of 30-year-old Joan Carolyn Risch from Lincoln, Massachusetts. If you have any info concerning this case, please call Massachusetts State Police at 781-897-6600.
Welcome to the state of New York. The Doe Network has 5 males listed as being missing from the state of New York in the 1960s. Case 7. Welcome to New York City, New York. Missing male. It was on December 10th, 1967 is when 37-year-old John Eric Lake, a white male, disappeared without a trace from New York City, New York. It was in the evening hours of that day that the 37-year-old Lake was having dinner in Manhattan, New York with a friend. According to the friend, the 37-year-old Lake had several drinks when he dropped her off at her apartment in Midtown. Then Lake began walking to the subway station to go downtown to his apartment in Greenwich Village. He was not seen again. The 37-year-old John Eric Lake was a sports editor for Newsweek magazine at the time of his disappearance. This was a high-profile case, and the disappearance of the 37-year-old Lake was investigated by the New York City Police Department as well as the Pinkerton Detective Agency. What they learned from some of Lake's co-workers at Newsweek, they feel that his disappearance was voluntary. The 37-year-old Lake had been depressed for at least a year due mainly to the deteriorating relationship with his wife and growing dissatisfaction with his job. More than a few of Lake's associates thought he just wanted some type of peace. But Lake's associates quickly ruled out suicide. Despite the 37-year-old Lake's high-profile position, he struggled financially for years. So everyone knows that Lake didn't run away to start over, for he didn't have the money to do so. New York City Police Department's Missing Persons reopened the investigation in 2004, and there are no reports on why the case was reopened in 2004. If you have any info concerning the disappearance of 37-year-old John Eric Lake, please call the New York City Police Department at 646-610-5000.
Welcome to the state of Minnesota. Doe Network has 2 females listed as being missing from the state of Minnesota in the 1960s. Case 8. Welcome to Hibbing, Minnesota. Missing female. It was on June 14th, 1969, when 20-year-old Barbara Jean
Picotti,
white female, went missing and vanished without a trace from Hibbing, Minnesota. The 20-year-old Picotti was last seen in downtown near Sammy's Pizza. This is where a close friend watched Picotti get into its 1964 Oldsmobile being driven by a man, J.D., who Picotti had been dating. 20-year-old Picotti was residing in Minneapolis at the time, but was in town visiting her parents for the weekend in celebration of Father's Day. Later that day, officers of the Minneapolis Police Department were called by J.D.'s family members to check on the man's welfare. J.D., the man in question, was living in an apartment in Minneapolis and had returned sometime that day. J.D. was located by law enforcement a few blocks from his apartment. According to reports, a short chase ensued. J.D. was soon apprehended and returned with officers to his apartment. While being questioned, J.D. told officers that he and Picotti took a ride around 1:30 a.m. J.D. stated they had an argument which prompted him to exit the car, but he can't remember the location where he got out of the vehicle. J.D. went on to tell officers that he recalled hitting the 20-year-old Picotti once, that he was sure she was dead. J.D. claims he remembers waking up in Warren, Minnesota, but not where he left the 20-year-old Picotti. Officers noticed muddied clothes and shoes lying on the apartment floor. Mud and grass covered a pair of pants that J.D. claimed he had been wearing earlier that morning. The vehicle J.D. was driving belonged to his father, and it was searched. Officers located a purse with one of its straps detached. Inside the purse, they found the 20-year-old Picotti's identification. J.D. was not arrested at the time, and the evidence in plain sight wasn't collected. A day later, the Minneapolis Homicide Unit received word from J.D.'s family members that J.D. had penned a suicide note. His family also told officers they had spoken to J.D. about Picotti and what may have occurred, and adding that J.D. did not remember much. J.D., the 20-year-old Picotti was dating, was admitted to a hospital for observation. On June 19, 1969, a search warrant was executed by Minneapolis police officers on J.D.'s apartment. J.D.'s roommate informed police that the muddy pants and shoes in question were taken by J.D.'s mother. Shoes were located sometime after, but the pants were never recovered. It might be cold, but if it was if I was in charge, JD's mother would have been arrested for tampering with evidence. On June 20th, 1969, detectives attempted to question JD about his involvement with 20-year-old Picardi's disappearance, but police were unsuccessful. What does this mean? Did JD lawyer up, or did JD keep his mouth shut altogether? At the same time, several massive ground searches were being conducted in the Hibbing area, but the searches raised no leads. Not long after 3 reports were received by phone that a vehicle was seen on Highway 73 with its headlights on in the early hours of the morning on June 14, 1969. The reports placed the vehicle about 1 mile south of the Maple Hill overpass. It is unknown whether the vehicle was occupied at the time. The case of the disappearance of 20-year-old Barbara Jean Picardi was eventually suspended. Okay, what does that mean? Suspended beats me being an investigator and you give up on a case. There is always something new to try to bring a case to a close. If you have any info concerning the disappearance of 20-year-old Barbara Jean Picardi from Hibbing, Minnesota, please call the Hibbing Police Department, Detective Dale Wright at 218-263-3601.
Okay, Olivia, is there anything you would like to add to any of these cases?
Yeah, I got a story to tell. I went skiing many years ago in Tahoe, so I'm going back to the Tahoe one. And we got, when you ski up there, you usually stay in cabins, you know, they're like rentals and stuff.
Yeah.
We get snowed in. But my point is, you know, you got to go through all these passes. And it's, my thing is, there's a lot of places there where you could hide a person, you know, or people could disappear. It's just one of those areas that, you know, it's great for skiing and everything, but I'm sure there's more than one person missing up there, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's just creepy. I mean, and we were snowed in. I mean, the snow was up to the windows. You couldn't see out. We were stuck there for a couple of days till you get plowed out. But, yeah, you got to go through Donner's Pass, I think we went through, and yeah, it's just weird up there. It's beautiful, but getting there, it's just
it seems like the females that go missing from that area, they either work at one of the resorts, the hospital, or a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so that means you know, hundreds of people would have access to them. So you see, that's what I'm saying. You just never know.
And I said, there's awful lot of snow. I mean, more snow than I've ever seen in my lifetime, the one storm. But, you know, and you're stuck, basically, you know. And then you get these people that, you know, they go driving out in it, and they shouldn't, and you're stuck somewhere. You go off the road or something, and, you know, they start walking, trying to get somewhere, and, you know, somebody can pick you up very easily.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I would like to add, this is our last podcast from Morrisonville, New York, until May of 2025. MJA leaves New York on September 3rd, 2024, to Indiana, Missouri, and then back to Hudson, Florida. Our next podcast will be after October 3rd, 2024, from Hudson, Florida, which will be episode 23, part 2, 1970s Missing Persons. I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. I also want to give a special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for you all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Robert London. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our Mja Podcast, this series, Missing Persons. This has been episode 23, part 1, 1960s Missing Persons. And we say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York, located in the Adirondack Mountains.
Does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? And I hope you're singing in the angel's choir. I hope the angels know what they have. Out there it's so nice, up in heaven since you arrived. Now tell me, what do you do up in heaven? All your days filled with love and light. Is there music? Is there art and invention? Tell me, are you happy? Are you more alive? 'Cause here on earth it feels like everything good is missing since you left.